the drawing that changed everything. On a cold, dreary afternoon, billionaire Nathaniel Hawthorne sat behind the wheel of his luxury sedan, waiting for the traffic light to change. The city, drenched in the golden glow of the setting sun, stretched before him, a sprawling jungle of glass and steel, a testament to his power and success. His empire stood tall, his name carried weight in every boardroom, and yet his world was void of warmth, of meaning beyond the pursuit of wealth. From the corner of his eye, he noticed movement. A small, ragged boy stood by the curb, shivering in the biting winter air. His clothes were oversized, tattered, and covered in dust. His eyes, sunken yet hauntingly bright, fixated on the passing cars. Then, as if mustering all the courage within his frail frame, the boy took a step forward. "Please, sir," the child called out, his voice barely above a whisper. "Buy my drawing. I'm very hungry." Nathaniel ignored him at first. His life had conditioned him to turn a blind eye to beggars, to dismiss them as nothing more than society's failures. Yet, something about the boy's voice made him pause. Against his better judgment, he rolled down the tinted window and beckoned the child forward. "Show me what you've got," Nathaniel said, his voice laced with indifference. The boy hesitated before stepping closer. His tiny hands trembled as he held out a crumpled piece of paper. Nathaniel took it, expecting a crude doodle, but what he saw made his breath hitch. It was a mansion, his mansion. Every detail was meticulously captured: the sprawling gardens, the grand entrance, the fountain in the courtyard. It was an eerie replica, down to the very last window pane. But what sent a chill down Nathaniel's spine wasn't just the accuracy of the house's architecture. It was the two figures standing in front of it. One was unmistakably him, tall, clad in his usual black suit. The other, a small boy, clutching his hand. Nathaniel's grip tightened around the paper as his heart pounded. "How did you draw this?" he demanded, his tone sharper than he intended. The boy lowered his gaze, scuffing his shoes against the pavement. "I don't know, sir. It's just something I see in my head sometimes. My mother always said I had a good imagination." "Your mother?" Nathaniel echoed. The boy nodded. "She passed away last year. I don't have anyone now, sir. I just wanted to sell my drawing so I could buy something to eat." Nathaniel felt an unfamiliar pang in his chest. Pity? No, this was different. There was a strange, unexplainable connection. He should have tossed the drawing aside and driven off, left this child to whatever fate awaited him. But he couldn't. Reaching into his wallet, he pulled out a crisp bill. "Here, this should be enough for food." The boy's eyes lit up, but he hesitated. "I can't take it for free, sir. You have to keep the drawing." Nathaniel studied him for a long moment before placing the paper on the seat beside him. "All right." The child accepted the money, his lips curling into a small smile. "Thank you, sir. Thank you so much." Before Nathaniel could say another word, the light turned green and impatient horns blared from behind. He drove off, watching the boy fade into the distance in his rearview mirror. But as he sped away, the drawing remained burned into his mind, an enigma he couldn't shake. That night, seated in the grand solitude of his mansion, Nathaniel placed the sketch on the polished marble table before him. The more he stared, the more unsettling it became. Who was the boy in the drawing? And why did the scene feel so familiar? A flood of memories surged forth, memories he had long buried. He had once been a hungry child, just like the boy. His mother had died young, and his father, consumed by grief, had abandoned him to the streets. He had clawed his way out, built his empire from the ground up, and convinced himself that his past no longer mattered. Yet here it was, staring back at him in pencil and paper. Days passed, but the drawing haunted him. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the mansion, the man, the boy. He knew he had to find that child again. He had to understand. Weeks turned into an obsessive search. His business began to suffer as his fixation deepened. His colleagues noticed the shift. The once cold and calculated billionaire was now distracted, agitated. He stopped attending meetings, retreating into his own thoughts. Then, one afternoon, as he left his office, he saw him. The same boy, standing at the same corner. Nathaniel didn't hesitate. He pulled over and stepped out of his car. "You," he said, kneeling to meet the child's gaze. "I need to talk to you." The boy looked up, surprised but unafraid. "Is something wrong, sir?" "That drawing you gave me. How did you know? How did you know about the mansion, the man, me?" The boy frowned. "I told you, sir. I don't know. I just see it." Nathaniel's heart pounded. There had to be more. "What's your name?" "Elijah," the boy said quietly. "Elijah," Nathaniel repeated. The name felt strangely significant. "Do you have anywhere to go? Any family?" Elijah shook his head. "No, sir. I've been on my own for a while." Without thinking, Nathaniel made a decision that stunned even himself. "Come with me." Elijah's eyes widened. "Where, sir?" "To my house," Nathaniel said. I think we're connected somehow, and I need to know why." When Nathaniel brought Elijah to his mansion, his staff was stunned. Never had they seen their employer show such kindness to anyone, let alone a street child. But Nathaniel knew this was more than just charity. This was something deeper, something unexplainable. As the days passed, peculiarities emerged. Elijah was drawn to certain rooms in the mansion, ones even Nathaniel rarely entered. He stared at the old nursery as if he had been there before, tracing his fingers over forgotten toys with unsettling familiarity. Then, one night, Elijah asked the unthinkable. "Sir," he whispered, "do you know about the boy who lived here before?" Nathaniel froze. No one knew. He had buried that part of his life long ago. His son, his only child, had died tragically years ago. No one had spoken of it since. Yet Elijah knew, and in that moment, Nathaniel understood. Elijah wasn't just a child. He was a messenger, a reminder, a second chance. The past, though painful, had found its way back, demanding to be acknowledged. And for the first time in decades, Nathaniel Hawthorne listened. In the weeks that followed, Nathaniel's life transformed. He adopted Elijah, giving him the family he had never known. But more than that, he found something he had lost long ago, his heart. Wealth, power, success. None of it had ever filled the void within him. But love, the kind he had long forsaken, did. And in the end, it wasn't a drawing that changed his life. It was a boy who gave him back his soul.